Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Kaufman, I'm Nerd on the Street, and today we are taking a look at a file sync tool called Syncthing. So there are lots of tools online for uploading files to the cloud, servers owned by other people, by companies, selling you server space, and then downloading those files onto other computers. Dropbox used to be a really big one. Google Drive is a whole lot more popular now. There's iCloud if you use a lot of Apple products. If you use a lot of Windows devices, you might use OneDrive. And all of those tools let you synchronize files between multiple computers. So you can set up a folder on one computer and set up the same folder on another computer, and then when you make changes to one of the folders, the changes are automatically synced through the cloud to another computer. A little while ago, BitTorrent Sync came out, and I made a video about it. I made a video explaining why you would want to use BitTorrent Sync rather than the cloud. And what BitTorrent Sync does is it synchronizes files directly from one computer to another without uploading them to the cloud first. There's another tool that's been around for a while now. It's not as old as BitTorrent Sync, but it's called Syncthing, and it's got a couple of differences from BitTorrent Sync. The biggest difference is that it's open source. Another difference is there's a little more authentication involved before you start syncing files. In BitTorrent Sync, even though the files don't go through one central server, it does require your authentication to go through the BitTorrent Sync servers. Whereas Syncthing, you do not need to use the global Syncthing discovery service if you don't want to. You can set your own discovery server up. So I broke out the chalkboard one more time just to show you the difference between Syncthing and, say, Dropbox. We'll use Dropbox as an example. So let's say you have two computers and you want to set up a folder shared between those computers. Probably should have set this up before I started the camera. So with Dropbox, you've got two computers and then you've got a server on top. And when you add a file to the folder on computer 1, that file gets synced up to the server, and then it gets downloaded from the server to computer 2. And then when you make a change on computer 2, it gets sent up to the server, and then sent back down to computer 1. Now there are a couple problems with having a server in the mix, and one of them is privacy/security. You know, in this setup, any files in that shared folder are going to be stored on the server, and say the government or companies, hackers hacking into companies, those two groups can get into your files because they're on a third-party server. And that server does not have to be owned by Dropbox. Like I said, this is the same setup that Google Drive, OneDrive, iCloud, all of those services use as well. So what Syncthing does is it removes the server from the mix, and with Syncthing, there is no server. So how do your files get from computer 1 to computer 2? Well, they just get sent directly from computer 1 to computer 2, and then also if you make a change on computer 2, it's sent back to computer 1. You don't have a third party in the mix, it's just going directly from computer to computer. Now that does have some downsides. Let's say that both of these computers are in the same building. Let's say they're both in your house, and then your house burns down. Well, if you were using Dropbox, all of your Dropbox files would still be in the cloud. Because there's no cloud here, because we're just going from computer 1 to computer 2, there's no redundancy. Well, there is some redundancy, but there's not as much safety of your information unless you've got one of these computers at your house and the other one at your work, in which case if your house burnt down, you'd still have a copy at your work. But you're responsible for setting up that redundancy, so you don't have your data backed up quite as strongly when you're doing this. Another problem is that with the cloud, you could have computer 1 upload something to Dropbox, like in the morning, and then later, in the evening, you can turn on computer 2 and have it download that file. With this setup, since computer 1 is sending things to computer 2, and those two computers are communicating directly, they both need to be turned on and connected to the internet at the same time for your files to sync. Now, if you're okay with both of those things, if you don't need your files sent to an external location, and you're okay with having both of the computers that are being synced together being turned on at the same time, then Syncthing is something that you should definitely take a look at as an alternative to using Dropbox and Google Drive for syncing files, because like I said, it's a lot more private, it's a lot more secure. Syncthing does encrypt your files as it's sending them. You have an option to actually compress them as it's sending them as well. And your files are not stored on anybody's computers except your own two computers. It's not stored on a third computer or a server. It should be noted that I used two computers for the purpose of this diagram. But if you want to, you could have a third computer in the mix. You can have as many computers connected to one Syncthing network as you want, and then it will also get all of your changes from computers 1 and 2. So if you really wanted to, you could set up a third computer at a friend's house, or you know, get a server, get your own server somewhere, rent a server somewhere, and put Syncthing on that, and then you would become your own cloud. So let's go ahead and make that a cloud right there. I hope you can see the chalkboard on the video, because if you can't, then I'm just going to have to cut all of that out. But that is the basics of why you would want to use Syncthing, because your files are not going to anybody else's servers, and also it's being downloaded and uploaded at the same time, so it has the potential to be a little faster. If you don't quite understand what's going on, if you don't know how Syncthing works by now, you can go and watch my BitTorrent sync video like I said, or you can go to our forums at nerdonthestreet.com and ask any questions you have. Otherwise, I'm going to show you right now how to set up Syncthing on 2 computers. Alright everyone, so here we are on the desktop. Now I have 2 virtual machines set up here. Let me explain what my setup is just so you know what you're looking at and you don't get confused. I've got an Ubuntu Mate virtual machine here, and then in another workspace I've got another Ubuntu Mate virtual machine. So you can see they are 2 separate virtual machines in these separate workspaces. So these are actually 2 different computers. You know, in practice you would do this with 2 different computers. So I am showing you how to set up Syncthing in Ubuntu using the PPA, the unofficial PPA, and using the official tarball download. So yeah, this is computer 1, this is computer 2, and we want to know how to get files from computer 1 to computer 2 and back to computer 1. So first we'll go with the easier way to install Syncthing, which is using the PPA. So Ubuntu PPAs are super easy to use. We're basically just going to add a repository, and then a very nice member of the community out there is taking Syncthing and packaging it into that repository for us. So what we're going to do is open up a terminal, and there it is. And here are the 3 commands. There's just 3 commands you need to run to install the PPA and the package to your system. The first one, we are going to add the repository. So sudo apt add repository PPA, and it's ytvwld/syncthing. And it's going to ask us for a password, and we will type that in. It's going to go and grab the repository, and it's going to ask you to confirm, so we will press enter to continue. It's going to get the key, and it's going to import the key for you. Next, sudo apt-get update, and that's just going to refresh our package lists, and so now that repository is going to be included in this refreshment of the package lists. I don't think refreshment is the actual term for that, but we're going and downloading the information for all of the repositories we've added to our system, including the one we just added. There we go. And then sudo apt-get install Syncthing, and that will install the package. Press yes, and there is a dependency that it will install, so we will grab that. Alright, now just because you've installed the Syncthing package does not mean that it will start automatically when your computer starts up. And I'm assuming you want it to start automatically because you probably don't want to have to type a command every time you want to sync files. So to make it start automatically, go ahead and go to your system settings, and this will be different depending on the distribution you're on. If you're on an Ubuntu-based distribution, then you can go to your control center. It'll look a little different on regular Ubuntu, but go to the Startup Applications Preferences, and this Preferences box is found in any Ubuntu-based distribution. If you're on another distribution, just go online and Google how to auto-start programs in whatever distribution you're using. But for Ubuntu, we've got this program. You can specify other programs to start when you log in. So go up here, click Add, and we are going to add Syncthing. And the command for Syncthing is Syncthing. And then comment file sync tool. And just press Add or press Enter. And now Syncthing is in our list of auto start programs. So now if we go and restart our computer, let's do that. Once we log in, then Syncthing should start up all by itself. And we can check by going to Syncthing's control panel. And the control panel for Syncthing is not actually a program, it's a website, but it's hosted on your computer. So it's not actually a website It's a web page, like I said, hosted on your computer. So type in localhost :8080, and in case you've never set up a web server before, this means that localhost, it's referring to the computer you're currently on, and then 8080 is the port number that Syncthing hosts its control panel on. So if you type that into your web browser and press enter, it will navigate to the Syncthing control panel, and this is how you control Syncthing. So this is the default layout. You have one shared folder by default, and you have one computer in your list of computers by default, and that's the computer you're currently on. So on Linux, the default folder that you're going to be sharing is in your home folder, and it's just called Sync. And Syncthing will create that folder for you. If you want to add more folders, you can do so. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to get the regular default syncing set up first. So we have Syncthing set up on computer 1, so let's go ahead and head on over to computer 2 and go in there. So here we are on computer 2, and this is how you get Syncthing if you want to do it. If you don't want to use the unofficial PPA, which it's a legitimate thing, you might not want to trust an unofficial source for your software, you can download Syncthing directly and run it yourself. So go to syncthing.net, and here's the Syncthing homepage, and we can download it from GitHub. And since we're on Linux, we're going to use the Syncthing-Linux version. Now, if you're on a 32-bit computer, or if your operating system is running as a 32-bit operating system, then get the Linux-386 version. If you have a 64-bit computer and you have 64-bit Linux installed, then go ahead and grab Syncthing-Linux-AMD64. So we will click on that one, save, and download finishes nice and quickly. So there's our tarball. We will extract the folder, the Syncthing folder, into our downloads directory and show those files. So here's the folder that was in that. And to start Syncthing, what we have to do is double click on this icon. So we will do that. And that is a difference between the PPA install and installing it yourself. Is the PPA install adds Syncthing as a command to your terminal wherever you are, but you would actually have to be in this folder if you wanted to just type Syncthing into your terminal. But you can see we do have our default Syncthing page open here, and it's exactly the same as the other one because these computers, one of them was a clone of the other one. So you can see computer 1 we have Syncthing installed, and computer 2 we have Syncthing installed. Now if you install Syncthing, if you download it this way and you want it to start automatically when the computer starts up, I think what you can do is you can go to your startup applications panel, type in Syncthing, and then the command browse to that Syncthing, there we go, file sync tool. So I'm going to go ahead and restart the computer and see if we just type this file in as the command to run, then maybe that will auto start Syncthing for us when we restart the computer. Because if you're going to be using Syncthing on a regular basis like I do, it really gets to be a hassle to manually start it every time you turn the computer on. You know, Dropbox automatically starts when we turn on the computer. Google Drive automatically starts when we turn on the computer. We want Syncthing to start when we turn the computer on as well. So log in, and let's see if it worked. It did work. So, okay. So yeah, by putting that file in, I guess it automatically opened up the panel for us. So you might want to go and do more research if you don't want the web page opening every time you turn the computer on. But if you do want Syncthing to auto start and you want to use the manual download option, that is how you do that. So like I said, we now have computer 1 with Syncthing and computer 2 with Syncthing. So we want to set up a shared folder between these two computers. And you can see, like I said, the default folder to sync is a folder called sync in your home directory, and that is on both of our computers. We want to sync those two folders together. Now, syncing between two Syncthing nodes is a little confusing at first, but it's really not that bad. So what you want to do is go up to this little menu in the top right and click Show ID. Now, anyone who you want to sync with will have to have your ID, and you will have to have their ID. So the first thing you need to do is send this to the person you want to sync with. So I would copy it maybe, and then open up Skype or Facebook Messenger or Telegram, or whatever you use to talk to people. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to log into Telegram real quick. Telegram is a texting app, in case you've never heard of it, but you can access your account online. So here I am logged into Telegram, and I'll go ahead and send the key to myself, and ideally you would want to send that to someone else, of course. So then we'll go ahead and head on over to computer 2, and I'll log into Telegram. And like I said, you don't need to use Telegram specifically. You can write down the code. You can, do whatever. Get the code from one person to the other. You can literally just write it down on a piece of paper and give it to someone else. I find copying and pasting it to be a more accurate, more reliable solution, so you don't have typos and problems with handwriting and stuff. Alright, so here I am. And now I have the key from the first computer. So here's computer 1's key, and I'll go into Syncthing, and on computer 2, you'll want to go to Add Device, Device ID, type in that code or paste it in or do whatever. Device name, I'm going to type computer 1 just so you can see. If you're using this within a network and you know that you have static IP addresses set up, then you can set the IP address of each node so that you don't have to use Syncthing's discovery service. If you don't know how to do that, just leave that at the default and it'll figure everything out for you with your IP address. Compression, you can choose to use compression or not use compression. I'm going to leave it on right now. It does take a little bit of processing power to do, but it does speed up file transfer, obviously, because the files you're sending and receiving are smaller. And then what you want to do is go down to Share Folders with Device, and you can select folders that you want to share. So I want to share the default sync folder with computer 1, so I'll click Save. Alright, so after you click Save, you'll get this message that says Restart Needed. And that's because Syncthing, when you change some of your settings, you'll have to restart the program. Just click Restart, and it will restart. And then we'll go down here, and you'll see we've got now this new thing. We've still got our computer, and then we've got the remote computer, computer 1. And then here we've got our default path, our default folder that we're sharing. Now computer 1 says disconnected, because even though we have shared computer 1's key with computer 2, we now need to go, we're on computer 2 right now, we need to go to show ID, take computer 2's ID, and send it back to computer 1. So now I'll send that. We'll go back to computer 1, grab computer 2's ID, and actually you might get this pop-up right here, and this little pop-up says, hey, we detected a new device added you, would you like to add it? So if you get that pop-up, you can just click add. Now that pop-up does not always work, so you can go to add device, type in the key, type in computer 2, share the folder with that device, and click save, restart. So you can use that pop-up if you get it. You should totally just use it, but it doesn't always work, so I thought I'd show you how to do it without that pop-up. So yeah, just add computer 1 onto computer 2, add computer 2 onto computer 1. Computer 2 you can see is disconnected, and right now Global Discovery just got online there. It takes a minute or so for Syncthing to connect to the Discovery server when you restart it. So yeah, we now have computer 2 added. And they just caught each other. They just found each other through Global Discovery. And so yeah, now you can see, we can see computer 2 has this IP address, and it's got this version of Syncthing. We can see the folders it's sharing. And you can see now, we're on computer 1 right now, and we have our folders shared with computer 2. Go to computer 2, you can see now computer 1 is connected, and then we have our folder shared with computer 1. So when you go and you want to actually share a file, let's go back to computer 1 and open up our shared folder. So let's say I go into LibreOffice, right? I go into LibreOffice because I want to load up a full-fledged program and do stuff even though I'm only in a virtual machine. I'm in LibreOffice and I'm going to type out some very important, business notes. This is like important internal nerd on the street stuff that I need to get to my employees or whatever. So we will go ahead and save that document into our sync folder, doc1. We'll save that, and you'll see it appear there. So now, every 60 seconds, Syncthing is checking, and you can change how often it rescans the folder right here. Right now, we're set to 60 seconds. If you wanted to scan every 5 seconds, You can make it check for changes every 5 seconds. The default is 60 seconds, so it doesn't stress your processor out too much. But we'll just wait the 60 seconds, and it'll check. It'll rescan that folder for changes every 60 seconds. Or you can manually click rescan if you just want to rescan it once, but not change the amount of time it waits. But we'll just wait. And any minute now, well, any second now, it only was supposed to take a minute. And there it goes. So it just scanned, and it said up to date right away because this file was on this computer. You can see our global state and local state have been updated to say 1 items rather than 0 items. And how big is this file? This probably was not a very good. This is only 13 kilobytes. But you can see, did that download to computer 2 yet? Oh yeah, it did actually. Alright, that file was so small that you could barely even tell that it's synced. But you can see it did sync. Let me see if I can grab a file that's a little bigger so I can show you exactly how this is working. But you can see right away the 2 computers are connected and they did totally sync. So I'm going to download like an ISO file real quick. So while that's downloading and saving, I'll show you if I open up sync, or if I open up doc1 on computer 2 and I make a change to it, this is a change. Save it. And as soon as it gets rescanned, you can see it'll resync back to the other computer. And then on the other computer, if we open it up, the change will be there. Alright, now I've got a nice big 200 megabyte Debian ISO. And I need to get it from one computer to the other. So I'm on computer 2 right now. And if I've moved that into my sync folder, and I click rescan, so it rechecks the folder for new files, you'll see it'll say up to date right away on this computer. But then on computer 1, it's not up to date, it's syncing. So you'll see our download rate is still really low, but our upload rate went up to 7.5 megabytes per second. That's how you can tell if it's actually uploading anything or not. Now we're up to 14 megabytes per second. It's going super fast because it's actually on the same physical computer. But you can see how fast we're uploading as well as how much we've uploaded. And that was actually, I forgot that these were 2 virtual machines on the same computer, but you can see the other computer, the computer 2 has uploaded 215 megabytes. Computer 1 has downloaded 215 megabytes. And now that ISO is on the computer. So it's going to sync a bit slower if you're doing this with 2 different computers on your home network. And it's going to sync even slower than that if you're doing it with 2 computers on the internet. It will take a little bit to sync. You'll probably get an upload rate or a download rate of maybe like 2 megabytes per second if you're lucky. But yeah, that is how you use Syncthing in the default configuration. Now let's say I wanted to add another folder. Let's say in my documents folder I had a shared documents folder in there. And I want to share this with the other computer. So what I can do is I can go click add folder, folder ID, I'm going to call it folder 1. And this folder ID has to be the same on every computer that you're syncing with. Folder path does not have to be the same. I'm going to type /home/Jacob/documents /shared documents, and there it is, right there. And I'm going to set the rescan interval to every 1 second just so you can see that. And I'm going to share it with computer 2. And then after we restart Syncthing on computer 1, you can see we're rescanning that folder for changes every second, which is kind of silly to do. And it's actually probably going to crash at some point if we keep doing that for too long. Oh no, it seems to be just ticking along. So yeah, we're rechecking that folder every 1 second because that's what we set the rescan interval to. Now if we go to computer 2, now we get this pop-up, computer 1 wants to share folder, folder 1. And you can click add, and that will open up this box. Now you could have just clicked add folder and put this in yourself, put in folder 1 as the folder ID. Now it's cool, folder path, you can name this whatever you want to. So I'll just name the folder whatever. We just need the folder ID to match between computers. The folder path can be whatever you want between computers. So I can type in /home/Jacob/documents/whatever, and then that folder now is going to be, I'm going to set the rescan interval on this one to 5 seconds. I'm going to click save. And by the way, there's some other stuff you can do here. You can do file versioning if you're using Syncthing for backing up on your network. If you're using some file systems that have weird permission things going on, you can ignore permissions when you're checking for new updated files in your folders. And if you want to do a folder sync one way, like if you want to send files to other people, but you don't want them to be able to send files to you, then you can do this folder master thing where you can change the folder, but other people can't. But we're just going to leave everything at the default, click save, restart Syncthing, wait for computer 1 to connect. Now if I go in here, even though this folder is called whatever, and the folder on the other computer is called shared documents, if I make a document in shared documents, it's going to get sunk. Well, this is still disconnected, so that's why that's not working yet. But as soon as it does connect, like it just did, then that file is going to get sunk over here. We can make another new folder inside the shared folder, and it's going to get sunk back over here. And there it is. So yeah, it does take a few seconds to sync, but that's not bad at all. It's going directly between computers like I talked about before the screencast. And if you've watched this far, you now have a good understanding, hopefully, of how Syncthing works. If you just want to use one folder just for personal syncing purposes, you can use the default folder on all your computers. If you want to sync folders with other people, it's super easy to do because it doesn't matter what folder they're using on their computer. All they need to do is have the folder ID and also have your device ID on their computer. So yeah, that is the process for setting up Syncthing on multiple computers. I know that Syncthing is not super easy to set up, so I hope I've been able to show it to you in a clear manner, in a somewhat concise manner as well. If you have any questions about Syncthing, if you're not sure how it works, or if you have any problems getting it set up, head on over to our forums at nerdonthestreet.com and leave a forum post. I will be happy to get back to you because I think that Syncthing is a really cool tool to use. So good luck with that. I hope you're able to use it for something nice. For now, though, that's all I have to show you. Let me know if there's any other tools you think I should showcase. I've already got some other ones in mind. But for now, I'm Jacob Kaufman. I'm Nerd on the Street, and I will see you guys later. See ya.